Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, when I start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Kakudash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith, and Shalom to all the sincere believers. Now, this lesson is going to be based on a magnitude 5.5 earthquake that struck Cuba. So, through the Spirit, I'm going to read this short article, get some precepts, and the Lord's will, you're edified. It says a magnitude 5.5 earthquake struck Cuba on Sunday, the European Mediterranean Seismological Center said. The ESMC initially reported a magnitude of 5.9 before downgrading it to 5.5. The quake was at a depth of 15 kilometers or 9.32 miles, the EMC said. Isaiah 29:6. Thou shalt be visited of the Lord Yahweh of hosts, with thunder, and with earthquake, and great noise, with storm and tempest, and the flame of devouring fire. And clearly, Cuba got hit with an earthquake of 5.5, which is a pretty decent magnitude earthquake. And there have been earthquakes happening in other parts of the world as well, especially here in America, out there in California. Matthew 24:7. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. And when you look up the definition of diverse, it means many or multiple. And clearly there's many and multiple there's earthquakes happening in many and multiple places. There's been an earthquake in Mexico. There's been an earthquake in Cuba. There's been an earthquake in California. There's earthquakes happening all over the world. And that's one of the many reasons why the men of the Lord are constantly saying that there is no getting around these scriptures. Because the things that are written in these scriptures are clearly happening. The earthquakes, the storms and tempests, the fires, the division, the love of many waxing cold. All you gotta do is just take a look around, and you'll see the very things written in these scriptures actually taking place. But the Lord has to put the Spirit on you to be able to see it and to understand it, and to be able to link what's happening in real time to the scriptures. And most people can't do that. 2 Ezra 9:1. He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs pass which I have told thee before. Verse 2. Then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Verse 3. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, and there's clearly plenty of both. There's plenty of earthquakes happening throughout the world, and there's plenty of uproars of the people in the form of all these protests going on. See, Esau's wicked societies, his wicked kingdoms are crumbling. The people are starting to turn against the government. The government has been against the people, but the people their brain is finally starting to work, and they're starting to push back. Which we know is going to lead to civil wars and race wars and ultimately world war. Verse 4. Then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. 6. Even so, the times also of the highest have plain beginnings in wonder, and powerful works, and endings in effects and signs. And there's a lot of signs happening. See, we're in the last days, and there is no getting around that. Everything is getting a lot more hectic than it did years ago, or than it was years ago. Like these power outages, they're lasting longer. The storms and the tempests and the earthquakes and the fires are happening a lot more frequently and causing more chaos than they used to. There's a lot more protests happening because a lot more people, well, the Lord is stirring up a lot more people. There's more violence happening, more people out here killing one another. There's a lot more mourning and weeping happening because these economies are collapsing. People are losing their jobs left and right. People can't afford, their homes. They can't afford to pay their bills. They can't afford to pay their rent. They can't afford to keep their car. They can't afford groceries. They can't afford to buy clothes. They can't afford to stay in a hotel. They can't afford to go on vacation. People can't do anything anymore. So a lot of people are mourning and weeping. A lot of people who used to be rejoicing are now just suffering. And that in itself is a sign of the times and a sign of these last days. And as the men of the Lord say, it's only going to get worse. And those of us of the hopeful elect, we want it to get worse. We want it to get as bad as the Lord is going to allow it to get. Because we want up out of here. We want up out of all of these wicked kingdoms where we're captives. We want the kingdom of heaven. And we can't get the kingdom of heaven while America and all these other wicked places, well, in particular, the Edomite controlled places are still up and running. The Lord has to shut all of this down. You gotta cut the lights off in these places. And that's exactly what he's gonna do. That's what he's doing right now. It just hasn't gotten as severe as it's going to get. Best believe, getting back to the main point of this article, not this article, this lesson, these earthquakes, they're gonna get a lot more powerful, a lot more intense and destructive and deadly. Like, especially out there in California, they've been getting hit with a lot of, like, small magnitude earthquakes, but it's been, a lot more frequent. And everyone's starting to pay attention to that because people out in California have been saying that California is overdue for a big earthquake. And now they're getting hit with like 10 small earthquakes and then, obviously the aftershocks. It's like just different parts of California just getting shaken up by like these mini earthquakes. And then, of course, you're going to have the people, seismologists or whatever, that are going to be like, oh, there's nothing to worry about, and, trying to stop people from panicking. But those of us of the hopeful elect, understanding what time and season we're in, there's plenty of reason that people should panic because the Lord is about to devastate that wicked ass place. And if it's not going to be with a wildfire, Like what we saw, either it was last year or the year before. If it's not going to be with a wildfire, it's going to be with a massive earthquake. And you know that if the earthquake is big enough, it could cause a tsunami. So you're going to get devastated with an earthquake and then a tsunami going to follow it up. You know, that could very well be how this plays out. You know, that's what happened out there in Japan. I believe it was back in 2011. So you can't say the Lord can't do it. He's done it before. See, these last days are not going to be peaceful. It's going to be full of chaos and violence and death and destruction. So all of these people who really think that at some point things are just going to turn around and go back to the way that they were like 10, 15 years ago, you know, you're dreaming. You know, that's some wishful thinking, but it's never going to happen. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim Rakakudash, the Lord of Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are still fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith, and shalom to all the sincere believers. I hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up, and Adawan Ratazah. Till next time, shalom.